Welcome to Hypnotic Authenticity. My name is Chris. I'm a practical, grounded hypnotherapist. I'm based in Switzerland, and this is a space that I have created to foster a genuine sense of inner settling. A place to harmonize with yourself and bring about the improvements to your well-being that, I don't know, maybe perhaps you thought were literally impossible. So my episodes are an invitation to reconnect with all that is alive inside you, to examine the stories that you live your life by, and to maybe soften the edges of what it is that you believe yourself to be in order to create a bigger, broader, more expansive sense of your personal agency and your personal understanding. So I'm going to be talking about identity, about existence, about self-resonance, self-harmony, about authenticity. And that'll all be wrapped up with a sprinkling of hypnosis or guided meditation to help you settle, to help you align and return to yourself. So if you're ready, take a breath and let's begin. I'm going to talk today about anger management. So I found myself a prickly tree behind me. There's a sort of a symbolic allegory to that. Now, as with all these videos that I'm making whilst I'm out in the big desert of America, these are kind of off the cuff. They're not scripted. I'll probably miss bits out. This is the thoughts that come to me when I am inspired. So I hope you'll grant me the flexibility to not be comprehensive in what I'm saying, but I think this might be useful. So I'm talking here about anger management rather than one-off staccato anger, let's say. I.e. anger which is generalized in the background and which from time to time explodes. That's what I'm talking about here. And I guess if you're watching this video, you already know what that is. So here's the good thing to start. Let's start with the good thing. Actually, let's start with a bit of beauty. Here's the good thing. When you experience these moments of, let's call it uncontrollable, furious rage, okay? Out of control, explosive anger. This is a big message from yourself that something needs to change. Okay? So rather than pushing against it, consider it a massive gift. Try that. Because if you look at the way that people make change, okay, if you look at, I have written a little blog on readiness to change. People go through stages of becoming increasingly ready to change until change goes from being a should to being a must. And it's these moments when your whole body responds for whatever reason and in whatever way that you're more likely to pay attention and realize that a should is a must. So the question with anger management is, how bad are you going to permit it to become? Are you going to allow it to get to the point where it's destroying your life, destroying your relationships, destroying every element of fun in your experience? Are you going to allow yourself to get to the point where there is something of such pain that you are forced to take action? Or are you going to listen and find a way? Okay. And I'm hoping from the fact that you're watching the video that there is an element that you're going to find a way. One other knottly piece of tree to signify the
painful, prickly parts of anger. I'm in Canyonlands National Park here, in case you're interested. And this is something that I've experienced myself. Okay, I've wondered sometimes how on earth to rein in uncontrollable anger, right? Real fury. So here's my take on what's going on here. We'll start with the feeling, the conclusion that I have come to, which is that all emotions are valid and useful. So let's assume that your anger and rage is expressing something useful to you. It may be way out of control, but there's a message behind it which is valid, okay? A bit like someone who's knocking on the door, needs to be talked to, needs to be heard. The more you push back against it, the more you ignore the banging on the door, the louder the person banging on the door needs to become in order to be heard. Yeah? So let's assume that the more violent the anger, the louder your body is telling you that you need to listen. Another conclusion that I've come to: the higher the level of your background dissatisfaction, the more likely you are that a minor trigger will turn into an uncontrollable angry reaction. If you're cool as a cucumber and someone cuts you up in traffic, you're going to laugh about it. You might get a little bit indignant, but you're not going to explode. If you're already in a bad mood, if you're already frustrated, if you're already really dissatisfied, and then someone cuts you up in traffic, it proves to you everything that you already know about your life, and you go way off, straight down that route into fury. Same action, completely different response. So for me, the question is, where is that level of background dissatisfaction coming from? And it can come from, well, I can think of two places off the top of my head. It can come from out there, or it can come from in here. It can come from out there, as in my expectations of life are not being reflected in my experience. I should be up here, and I'm here. And that's not fair. And that's not what my life should be. And damn, that makes me angry. Okay? That can be one way. And you can pick your poison with that one, okay? You can pick as many reasons to be frustrated with the world as you choose fit. The other slightly more complicated one: I am not good enough. I am faulty. I am afraid. I am lonely. I dislike myself. I deserve to suffer. I hate myself. All those inner thoughts. There is something faulty at the core of me that I distrust. There's a part of me that I'm scared of. There's a demon inside of me that if I let it out, God knows what might happen. All those kind of feelings. So with that, you build a mask, okay? You build a outward persona to get on in life. You build a story, and you hope and you hope and you hope that people believe the story. Deep down, you're scared, afraid of yourself, disappointed in yourself, disconnected with yourself, typically, fractured inside of yourself. But outwardly, you portray this persona in the hope that people might believe it. And this is exhausting, utterly, utterly exhausting. And so, again, from time to time, the mask slips. You get triggered by something, which may be something and nothing, but you're already on edge. You're already so exhausted with portraying this beautiful self, which is nonsensical, that something comes along and it just, like, oh, you just can't do it, right? And bang, out comes another explosion. So here are the two main kind of labels that I give to the sources of these explosive events of rage. So basically, there's two ways that we can deal with that gap between reality and our expectations, okay? We can change our reality, or we can change our expectations. There's not much else. Now, if we go to the external view, the world isn't treating me fair, okay? Look at what's happening to me. Well, it's going to be pretty hard to change the world, all the systems that are going on. So it's more likely with that one that you're going to have to adjust your internal perceptions, your internal expectations of what life should be delivering you, because it's very, very hard to get the world to change, but it's much easier to change yourself, even though it might feel hard. So that's the kind of the external point of view. What about the internal one? Okay, my life should be better than it is. I'm fractured, I'm fake, I'm disappointing myself, I'm not enjoying my life as I should be, all that kind of thing. There are indeed two ways. You can either adjust your bar, your expectation, or you can adjust your experience. And they both work. Do a little turn, huh? Just to appreciate the beauty of this. I'll go like that, so then it's not quite so bright behind. Okay. Let's start with the external one. That's kind of easier to deal with to a certain extent. The world is running on systems which are outside of your control. You experience these moments inside yourself where you just go on autopilot and you explode with anger, right? There are other times in your life when you go on autopilot in loads and loads of different ways. You don't know why you do them. Something occurs and you react. Consider the world to be an organism and permit the world to be as complicated or as flawed or as multifaceted as you are, okay? Stuff's going to happen that according to the world makes sense, be that another person, another unit, another business, another family structure, another community, whatever it may be. They're going to do things from their perspective that makes sense to them in this moment in time based upon what they know, what they feel. And you're going to disagree with them. But they're not doing it necessarily to get at you. Maybe they are, in actual fact. Maybe that's part of their motivation. But either way, they're running on their own rails. And there's not a lot you can do about that. Now, the anger might be useful. It might be telling you to take actions. in order to adjust that situation. Whether or not you're capable or not is a different matter, but the anger could drive you to something useful. But let's permit other people to be as flawed as we are. That doesn't stop you from getting angry. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it gives you a perspective upon the what it is that you're getting angry about. Let's go to the internal one. This is much more fundamental. I think this is something we learn, something we pick up, maybe when we're too young to even realize we're picking it up. This is part of our development, part of what becomes our personality. So we learn from our environment, certain things are acceptable, certain things are not about us, by our authority figures, our parents, our teachers, whoever it may be. We learn to limit the unforgivable parts of ourselves, the impermissible parts of ourselves, the parts of us that will be disapproved of and may cause us to be rejected and abandoned or whatever it may be. So we come to a perspective inside of ourselves that there's elements of us that are not good. We learn that, we continue to go through experiences in life which either agree with that perspective and compound it or disagree, and then we either change our perspective or we flick off and ignore the experiences that disagree. But we come to a very subtly grown conclusion about who and what we are. Then with that, we fit into the world to the best that we can. We try and make our needs met, be that our job, our need for friendship, our need for love, our need for connection, our need for significance, all these things. So we adapt ourselves to our environment, to our peer group. You know, we are the average of our peers. And we end up coming up with a set of actions that kind of deliver the goods for us. It's not really us. It's a façade of us. It's a portrayal of us that seems to work a bit. And some people can be very lucky, right? Some people can grow up in an environment where the end result of the story of themselves is pretty well aligned with the reality. Other people are less lucky and they go further in the disconnect between their congruence and the story that they're expressing to the world. And unfortunately, that's just part of life. That's how you grow up, and you don't make the circumstances in which you grow up. So end result is there is a gap between you and you. Okay? The you that you feel inside and the you that you portray. And that is hard to maintain, and it doesn't always deliver what it should. Because sometimes you get what the story asks for rather than what you really need. And so you end up with a background sense of dissatisfaction and frustration and imprisonment, trapped inside your own story that apparently you created, that apparently works from time to time, but is stifling and trapping and frustrating. And then something occurs that just pushes you over the edge and rah. So, I think one of the most useful things that helps release that feeling of imprisonment is making friends with the parts of you that are unforgivable, unpermissible, your dark side, your black thoughts, your taboos, the things that you would never tell other people about, the shameful things, okay? Embrace your dark side. Permit yourself to be a member of the human race. Permit yourself to have flaws. Take action if there are elements of that dark side that you don't like. But rest assured, everybody has a dark side, right? No matter how hard we may try and search for the light, we will find the dark, right? Wonderful book, set of plates by William Blake called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. I don't know if you might find that interesting, but I found that quite interesting. So rather than pushing against the system of yourself, rather than fighting against the parts of you that are considered by others and that you have learned to consider by yourself unacceptable, give in. Forgive yourself your flaws. Accept that to be human is to be multifaceted, that the only way to know the light is to see the dark, that yin comes with yang and yang comes with yin, that great things come from bad experiences, whatever it may take, to allow yourself to get back on your own side, to stop being angry with you and cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break, allow yourself to just be. This goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, that for a lot of people, that will only occur once their anger has created something so disastrous that they have no choice but to wake up. And what I'm encouraging you to do is to look at yourself before that becomes inevitable, let's say. That, I guess, is how you would describe me as a change agent, okay? That's my facilitating role, to try and get you to make these changes before it becomes an absolute necessity. By helping you to see that it's a necessity without actually having created the catastrophe. Yeah. You can do this yourself by creating leverage. If I continue down this route, look at what's going to happen. That sort of approach. Or if I choose a different route, look how amazing my life can be, the carrot. But most people tend to run away from pain. So I would encourage you to find some leverage that says, oh my God, I must change. So yeah, so we end up in a circumstance where it turns out our bad side is not as bad as we thought. That it's an essential component of living. that we don't have to be the story we portray to other people. And the pressure is then off to prove yourself to the world, or to individuals, or to yourself. And with that comes a release, a awakening, a renaissance, a gift. I'm okay as I am is the conclusion that you're looking for. I hate to be prescriptive, but that's it. I'm all right. I don't need to battle against myself. And I don't need to battle against the system. I forgive myself. And when you forgive yourself, you can start to forgive other people, because you can start to begin to see what it is that they're all going through as well, individually and as a mass. That people are running around on their own rails, doing their own reactions, just like you were before you had this awakening. And we can go down a philosophical route of awakening kind of till the cows come home, right? But this is where the anger evaporates. I'm not saying that this allows you to sit down on your deck chair and do nothing. It doesn't stop you from having goals and purposes. It doesn't stop you from having frustrations. You'll still get angry, because anger and frustration and even rage, they're all valid emotions. But because you made friends with your inner demon, there is no pressure cooker effect, okay? There is no building explosion that eventually has to be expressed, because you permit yourself a complete range of emotions. Everything is on the table, and so there's no need for that build-up to occur. And so when stuff occurs, which it will, because the world will do what the world will do, your background level of exhaustion, frustration, stress, not quite sure how to put it, but your basal metabolic rate when it comes to alertness and maintaining your mask will be so much lower that when something comes along, it's less triggering. Okay? You become a more authentic individual. You become more you. And when you do that, the world responds, the world reacts. Good things start to happen. You become nicer to other people, and so they tend to become nicer to you. You see opportunities around you because you're less labeling of yourself and your limitations and your goals. Opportunities present themselves. And because you have that sense of freedom inside of yourself, you're prepared to pursue these opportunities in ways that before you wouldn't have done, because it doesn't matter if you get them wrong, right? Because you're all right being you. This is a virtuous circle. It's a circle of loving yourself. It's a circle of becoming comfortable with yourself to the point where you become comfortable with the world, to the point where you just love the world. hard to say that without feeling evangelical about it. But, yeah. And you can go far, far, far with that. Just consider that possibility. Just consider if you got out your own way and allowed the beauty of life to be everywhere. To allow the flaws of life to be everywhere. To play your part in the dance of life with a sense of playfulness, adventure, dare I say joy, peace, acceptance, simplicity. When inaction becomes action, and when action becomes inaction, and they're both all right. When you can go for the things that you really want, where you have the freedom to take the choices, make the decisions, and take the actions that you want to, comfortable in knowing that you are already sufficient. It's incredibly freeing because there's nothing to prove. You're allowed to try and fail. That's okay. Becoming aware that the failure was based around the limiting beliefs, not in trying and making a mistake. We all make mistakes. You can't even learn how to walk without making mistakes. So you're embracing life. And I assure you, if your experience is similar to mine, there is a point where you can see the thread going back in time that led to today. And you can see the steps that you took that led you here. And you can look at that with a sense of beauty and awe and wonderment. Because it is like a second life. You can read about this. William James talked about once born and twice born individuals. Have a look at that. And this is the key to the kingdom, okay? Because then, once you are internally aligned, once you are internally congruent, it doesn't matter whether the stimulus comes from outside or inside. Because you feel like a rock in your core. You know who you are. And you're all right with that. So when the world knocks, which it will, that's the world knocking. That's what it does. When you knock, like you will, because feelings come knocking, you won't push them away. You'll see them and feel them and think them in a different light and be grateful for them. You know, when stuff feels bad, it's no longer bad. What it is a message to do something or think something or feel something or pay attention. And just like the person at the door, once you've paid attention, they go away. And this is where the happiness of life comes from, okay? And just like all emotions, Happiness is not a permanence, okay? Happiness is a transitory emotion. It comes and goes. So don't set yourself up with these massive shoulds about how life should feel. Joy, however, is more of a state. Joy is a state. Joy is something that becomes all-encompassing because it's a sort of a wild sense of awe in all things that, whereas before you had this background sense of frustration, now you have this background sense of awe and joy about what you don't know, about what's out there, which could be. And then you might walk around and in the street with a slight glow, with a slight smile that's just kind of there. And then you might want to spread that to the world and start learning more about yourself and contributing to make the world a happier, kinder place. Because there's nothing more rewarding. So there we go. I think that's sufficient on anger management, huh? We went off into the opposite of anger management, but I think it's important to go there because that's the carrot, right? And to come full circle, that's what you kind of knew all along. Yeah, one of my phrases is learning is remembering. And I wholeheartedly subscribe to that. It's not as if you're reinventing yourself. It's as if you are remembering yourself, re-allowing yourself to be you, finding that inner child and permitting. Right, I'm going to shut up now. That's 36 minutes of talking. My word, that's a lot. But this is a very, very important subject, so I hope you find that useful. Questions, comments, send them to me. Leave them down below if there is the possibility to do so. Ask away. If there are other topics that you want me to cover, ask. If you don't understand certain things that I'm talking about, then feel free, ask. If there are things that you do understand and disagree with, put them down. Let me know. I'm not saying, unfortunately, that I am the oracle. I'm not saying that I have the keys to the kingdom, and I'm not saying that I know how to fix you. All I have are personal experiences which seem to work. And so I'm delivering a bit of that to you, and I hope it's of benefit. Okay, take care. Look after yourself. Give yourself a break. If you're feeling angry, consider what's behind the anger. Anger is frequently a secondary emotion, and behind it is a sense of sadness or fear, or, there's often something behind it. Get in touch with that. Look at your dark thoughts. Look at your inner demon. Look at your expectations in life. Consider. Read the Stoics, the considered life. Get to the point where you can identify the stories running in the back of your mind and just see if that's right, wrong, or indifferent. It's like budging a rusty hinge. It doesn't come automatically, okay? But day by day, bit by bit, everybody is capable of change because everything is changing all the time. Even this, which appears so permanent, everything is changing, including you. Okay, I hope that's useful. Take care, goodbye, and get in touch. Communicate. Not necessarily with me. Get in touch with others. You know, I said before, you are the average of your peer group. Make that a nice peer group. All right, take care. I believe in you, whoever you may be. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If it resonates with you, then follow my podcast. I would also personally be really grateful if you might wish to leave a quick rating. It genuinely helps others to discover the podcast. If you personally would like more guided meditations, you want some deeper insights, you'll find all my links in the description. If you prefer a more visual boost, then you might want to check out my YouTube channel called Authentic Life Hypnosis. And if you're looking to do some deeper work that goes beyond one-way audio, then obviously you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.